Welcome to the Executive Hub, the show that helps you grow your business with simple tips and strategies from successful entrepreneurs and businesses. Today, my guest is Zac Fromson. Welcome, Zac.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Great to have you. And we are talking about how to use email marketing to skyrocket your sales. Important topic. Let me do the proper bio for Zac, and we're going to dive right into it. Zac Fromson is the co-founder and COO of Lilo Social, a full funnel e-commerce growth agency. He has been leading since 2018. Under his leadership, Lilo Social has earned a place on the Inc. 5000 list twice, grown from a team of 50 plus experts, and achieved Klaviyo Elite status, all while helping brands scale profitably through data-driven digital strategies. Zac oversees the agency's retention department, driving strategy, design, sales, relationships, and partnerships to fuel long-term success. Zac, how's your day so far?
Going great. Happy to be here. How about you?
Great to have you. Likewise. Where about are you?
I live in New York. How about you? You said you're out in Calgary, right?
I'm in Calgary in Canada. Yes.
Stellar.
It's it. It was interesting. We were talking about before the show. You guys had snow a couple days ago, and I thought it was only Calgary that does that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
This time of year.
it's you never know what you're gonna get over here on the East Coast. So hopefully we'll be seeing some real spring weather soon. But yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, we get like slow until the end of May, and people still get surprised. Do you guys get that too?
Typically, no, we really shouldn't have probably even gotten any here in April. But there's always those years or those. It's really just on random days here and there that kind of gets you.
You never know. You never know. All right, let's dive into it. Zac, what is your story?
Yeah. So back in 2018, founded or co-founded Lilo Social. Way back when, pre kind of the ecom boom. So doing quite a bit back in the day. Really, we're more of a full service agency shop, doing a lot of web dev, working with all sorts of different businesses. But pre COVID, we kind of started to hone in 2019 to just work with e-commerce brands. And as kind of COVID's kind of spurred it out. We were kind of in an office in Dumbo, Brooklyn with, a team of, I don't know, maybe we were at 6 or 7 at that point, and really changed the business. It was a tough time for some people, but we kind of seized the moment. We were kind of right place, right time for e-commerce, and we're able to kind of quickly grow, scale, and help a lot of businesses transition. So, it kind of quickly drove momentum for us, went from a team in, Dumbo, Brooklyn to a fully remote company for the most part. We do have still some people headquartered here in Brooklyn, but the team has become quite distributed, and we've grown quite exponentially since. So it's kind of our springboard, kind of found our footing, and really allowed us to kind of to build out, over the years, continue to expand capabilities from paid social, adding on email, which is now a massive line of business for us here as well. So been a really interesting journey, and a lot of turns, changes, and I'd say it wasn't what we were expecting by any means.
Interesting. So, quickly give us the story behind the name, one, and what inspired you to start getting to this business?
Yeah, so starting with the name, I got a funny name here with Lilo Social. Most ad agencies have funny, weird, insignificant names. I'd say pretty good at marketing, not great at naming. Me and my co-founder needed a name, and we had a goldfish. The goldfish that was sitting in the office with us, name was Lilo, and we did paid social. So here we are, from a naming perspective. So
So you named it after your goldfish.
after our goldfish, which I had a
Wow.
story, but that's where we are.
Interesting. Lilo. I mean, it's a unique name. I like it. That's brandable, you know.
Guess
But
so.
and you know what? Honestly, picking a company name is one of the most difficult tasks for me. Like I could find customers, I could sell, I could do anything, but get me to pick a name for a company, and my brain just stops. I,
Yeah,
I,
it's so hard. I feel it's probably one of the hardest things that we've had to come up with, and realized at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's do you do good work?
honest to God, I was working on a company name today for something we're working on, and like mainly like all the good names are all taken. Like
Yeah, getting the domain.
really have to get creative and make sure like the domain, social handles, everything is available, and it becomes difficult.
I hear you.
So, who do you serve and what do you do for them?
Yeah, so we work exclusively with e-commerce brands, really just focused on D2C growth. It doesn't mean that they don't have a retail presence, but we work with brands that are trying to build and develop their e-commerce and digital presence. We're positioned and kind of have capabilities that are full funnel at this point. So helping brands through acquisition, retention, and marketplace. So acquisition is paid channels, anything from paid search, social, creative, to help acquire the first customers, helping with website dev and CRO. On the back end, a ton of email, SMS work for customer retention and development to kind of drive loyalty, LTV, and also marketplace. So Amazon, storefronts, Walmart, really trying to get into the ecosystems outside of the Meta, the socials, the Google landscapes. Marketplace just becomes such a powerful and prominent space for e-commerce brands where so much of what's happening, it's become 360. So it's been imperative for us to open up that line of business. So
Is that
really,
the Facebook marketplace?
no, Amazon. We kind of just look at
Amazon.
Amazon as a storefront, right? It's its own search engine, its own shoppable marketplace. No one is going to Amazon unless they're ready to buy. So much runoff is happening. You hear about a brand on Facebook, you may never even go to their website. You might go right to Amazon to learn about it and one click to buy there. So what once was not a major concern is now a major concern of how do you even track performance for yourself. So, now we can help look at businesses in a 360 perspective, look at their P&L at an entire digital landscape, what's happening on their Shopify store, what's happening in their Amazon storefront, what are they selling through Walmart, and what does that mean for the true business P&L.
Interesting. I know you kind of touched on it already, but what are specifically some of the problems that your customers have, and how do you guys help them out?
Yeah, everyone's always looking to acquire a new customer. So most people are coming to us with acquisition as like a main problem, and retention as a main problem, right? So it's either one of the two or both. And a lot of brands need help with creative. That's one of the biggest pain points, as the media landscape has shifted a lot away from ad account structures and targeting, and creative is doing the targeting. So most people come to us with creative problems. They're unhappy with their design, their creative, their research, hypothesis, and messaging. So us kind of being able to help really develop some key message for them, to help better connect with customers. So that's most people's problems. And some people either have an LTV problem, they have an acquisition problem, maybe they have both. So really trying to help them crack down what's falling apart, why is it breaking, and trying to kind of fill those holes, fill those gaps for them to help their systems become sustainable and ideally profitable.
Fantastic. So you talk about doing their creative. Do you mean like, are you guys doing more of organic social media content creation to attract customers, or is that something else going on?
No, all paid, right? I mean, you need creative to be able to drive paid performance on Meta, or any tertiary channels, whether it's TikTok or Pinterest. It's all creative driven. So building video assets, image based assets, whatever is necessary for ad placements across really social for the most part to be able to kind of attract and acquire new customers. We don't do as much in organic. We do support organic, but it is less of an emphasis. The landscapes have just become, outside of TikTok, such pay to play, to really kind of get the growth that brands need. Dollars are pretty much required now.
I know AI is pretty hot these days and everybody's talking about it. How has it impacted your business?
I think it's an advantage, right? I think, some people are concerned and scared, but I think as an agency, we are always adapting and learning ahead of the curve. So I think right now we have an advantage to learn these tools, leverage these tools, and help apply them to advance our agency faster, whether that helps with faster work, better quality, helping cut down on asset cost creation. We can unlock a lot of capabilities for brands, and it's going to take ideally years for a general consumer, a general brand to catch up to the capabilities that our agency has to develop across so much opportunity. So in the short term, I think it's advantageous. I think the agencies that can automate reporting, be able to build agents to ask questions on things like, hey, what was my CPM the last 7 days? Or what is a trend across my portfolio, and be able to analyze data across all 50 ad accounts of your brand to be able to understand trends. It's actually going to create such a data infrastructure and so much opportunity for us as an agency that I think it's absolutely amazing, especially in the short term. While we can take advantage of it, I think you just have to be a first mover to make it happen and don't want to be left behind.
Got it. So I know there's a lot of talks about people losing their jobs and companies going out of business. Do you see that affecting you and your industry in a negative way, like losing, I don't know, clients, deals, jobs, and the rest of it?
I mean, it's certainly a possibility. I think there are going to be some internal, people have already been moving some teams internally. I think there might be some tools that will come out that might phase out some roles. So yeah, you're right. It might affect some jobs and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, there has to be still a practitioner to work AI. AI isn't going to necessarily run itself. So I think for the agencies that might be leaner, right, I think it's getting higher quality staff and maybe not needing as many bodies. That could end up being the case over time, but you still need people who know how to ask the right questions of AI, build the right prompts, and run those machines. It might just be able to be
Yeah,
done leaner. But I do think, that it's not necessarily going to phase out the marketing agency altogether, but it might just change the model a bit.
that's right. I see AI as another tool. Like still, like you said, someone needs to run it and use it and know how to use it and how to prompt it and how to even like be able to analyze and say whether that AI response was it good? Is the copy good? Is the ad copy good? The images and the rest of it. I mean, someone needs to still be there.
Totally.
You know,
Yeah, that's always going to be a part of it. So I do agree though, right? Hey, maybe it's going to eliminate the volume of designers needed or things of that nature. So I think it's really just coming down to, yeah, there could be some elimination of some opportunity, but you still need people to run the show and make some stuff.
100%, 100%. Give us like a case study, an example of a client you guys work with. What was like the challenge they had, and how did you help them?
Sure. Yeah. Without getting too specific on a brand name specifically, we do work with a lot of brands that come in and have quite a few problems. But what's a good one for us here today? All right, yeah. So we had a juice brand that had come in with us, really struggling on acquisition. A lot of their problem was really just creative driven. So us being able to come in and help build assets. So essentially, we'll take a look at their creative, see what's happening, and understand, is it a diversity problem? Is it a messaging problem? And we kind of found they were doing everything right on the cover, right? They had diversity, they had volume, they had creative, but they never had the right messaging. Their messaging was quite off. So we did a ton of messaging testing with them until we found some messaging that hit. So we were essentially developing different ads that had a bunch of different messaging within groups and then built specific landing pages for each of those problems. So their message carried through. And it's a sports beverage, and it helps essentially with like athletic recovery. And we hit that messaging with some statistics, the business just absolutely took off and went running. So I think the biggest lever that can happen is that yes, you need pretty creative. It needs to be well produced. But I think a lot of people forget that it's mostly about the messaging. It's how are you going to connect with your audience that falls flat. And I think that was their biggest problem. That they had good creative. The brand was fine. They just didn't know how to properly message the product to the ecosystem. And we figured that out. They hit wildfire.
Beautiful. So you guys did worked on the messaging, did some, I'm guessing, A/B testing on what worked and what didn't. Did you go? How did you go about testing? Was it on Facebook ads or like did you find? Did you just? How did you go about testing? Let me just leave it open.
Yeah, a lot of the testing was in Meta for us there specifically, but that whole story went through and through, right? There's people coming to the site for email, so it was changes to the website, changes to the email marketing system. So some of it was tested with an email, right? They already had quite a few customers. They had people who had signed up but never purchased. So there's a bunch of different, I guess, sample sizes where you could test that out. So yeah, some of it was via email campaigns, testing different messaging to different audience segments. Some of it was within Meta, trying different messaging. So it's kind of really a variance across the board, just trying to prove that out. So testing a bit everywhere until we kind of found something that stuck and what really worked.
Beautiful. I love what you said about just putting out some statistics into the messaging and just increasing the conversion rates in there. Like,
yeah, it really just kind of helps prove some validation, especially when we're talking about like athletic performance improvements, when you have actual studies that have been done, things that can actually back up and prove what you're saying is super meaningful. I think a lot of random data points and things are being thrown around that this will help, this will cure this will cure that. But I think it was such an obscure data point through a real study that it was just so believable that we were able to kind of link back to the study, reference it, and it was a real data point that I think made a real difference for them.
very interesting. So we talked about email marketing to skyrocket sales.
Yep.
Tell us about how you go about that.
Yeah. So I mean, for us, email has been rapidly growing. I think the cost of advertising, especially on paid, has become so expensive, and without strong email, you're putting yourself in such a disadvantage. So for us, we work pretty much exclusively from an email perspective with Klaviyo. We're an elite partner and have a really good understanding of what works for e-com brands in the Shopify ecosystem. So I mean, for the capabilities there, for us, we built a lot of segmentation, leveraging the Klaviyo data platform or their marketing analytics tools to be able to build out segmentation and really be able to speak to everybody. I think there was this theory that you have 1 million subscribers and you need to send to that list every single time. I think the biggest unlock that we've found is really spending time within your data, using your CRM, and really building out segmentation that's going to speak to each audience and where they are in the funnel. Are they already a subscriber? Have they purchased multiple times? What are their attributes? What predictive analytics can you build off of them? And when you can start to really be intentional with the work that you're doing, it really makes a big difference. Yes, volume does matter, right? If you can send to more people, likely you're going to generate more dollars, but I think really brands start to skyrocket when they really nurture the messaging that they're putting in people's inboxes actually matter. There's such a heavy, it's so just heavily inundated with a promotions tab at this point in Gmail that you really need to stand out. So I think if you're bringing in unuseful messaging, people just will quickly just disregard you. So I think segmentation matched with strong messaging is really taken off for most of our brands.
Okay. Is that like, is your focus with the email piece, is it mostly on an existing warm list of leads and existing or past customers, or is it the cold list? How do you go about that?
Yeah. So a little bit different in that space. So I guess, if you say cold, I mean, everyone has opted in, everyone has come to the site, everyone has identified themselves as wanting to be, or accepting marketing. For sure. It's not necessarily like a cold outbound strategy by any stretch of the imagination. But breaking out those lists that some people might subscribe to your newsletter for a discount, but maybe they don't end up purchasing for a variation of different reasons, whether it's price, time, the inventory they're looking for might be out of stock. And then there's some people who've signed up and purchased. So really just understanding where someone is within that funnel and trying to nurture them. So pre-purchase, post-purchase, what is that experience? And even just making sure some of it is retention as well. It's not all just about getting the first purchase in. People will come through to the site through paid and other means and buy. But for a lot of companies, unless you're a very, very high AOV product selling mattresses that you don't need one frequently, right? Or hope not. That people need to come back for more. So making sure that first experience post-purchase is absolutely stellar. So it doesn't all have to be sales. It doesn't all have to be discounts, sales, and marketing. Some of it's educational. Some of it's teaching someone, helping them understand when to take the product, how to take the product, how they should be feeling when they're taking the product, what they should be looking for, what success looks like when using the product. To asking them to share their stories, trying to build connections with them. So it's not all just about sales and marketing, but some of it is about intentional relationship building. That's one other thing that we're very strong at. As a lot of D2C brands are moving to subscription. It's just a huge piece to be able to actually retain them. You actually have to build a relationship and they have to feel that the product is helping them, and that level of education, customer service helps that.
Fantastic. So if someone wants to get started with, let's say that a company, I'm guessing there are a lot of companies out there that do a bad job with email. There is a ton of them that send a monthly newsletter that nobody looks at. And it's kind of boring. So if a company wants to get started to use email to increase their sales, give us some tips or ideas on where people should start with that email piece to start increasing sales.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's probably the opposite of what you think, and it's less sales content and more educational content. I think
Hmm.
that's really the biggest problem. I think everyone's inboxes are just being pushed with discount sales and promotions, and not everyone's ready to buy or wants to buy right now. So I think it's not saying you can't merchandise your products within most or every campaign, but not every subject line and headline or purpose needs to be there. I think there can be fun content, right? We have a really fun brand that they make screensavers every month for their customers that are like very vibey, that fit along the lines of someone who would probably connect with that type of product. So, there's just really fun things that you can do within your newsletter and within your campaigns that don't have to be impactful. You can have mindfulness there. It really depends on what your brand ethos is and what it's about. But I think you need to look deeper into like what do people within your persona care about? What does that look like? And what are some fun and engaging things that you can still talk about your product through or have connection with your product, but can bring value to your audience? And then you can ask for the sale. You can offer discounts. You can talk about new product launches, and you should continue to push products throughout the month. But I think breaking out your calendar and understanding what percentage of your calendar should be promotional and what is educational. What stories can you tell, linking out to blogs, informational articles? People want to consume content, right? I think everyone's spending time on social, reading articles, reading blogs, spending time on X. So email is another channel for that. And I think it's really just a matter of diversification of content. I think it's where a lot can go wrong.
Do you have like a rule of thumb for a ratio between educational content and promotions?
I wouldn't say there's an exact number that I try to stick for, but maybe try to shoot 20, 30% can be promotional, and the rest should be a lot of other buckets, a lot of other topics. I think you kind of need to break out what fun ideas, what topics you can have. There's a website called nuld.com. It's where a lot of brands can send their emails. It's kind of like a repository. So, I think people need to go get inspiration. I think that's kind of where it all starts. And I think people sit in a room and try to think up the calendar, and all they can think about is sales. I think people need to spend more time observing what good brands do and what competition is doing, and do some more research, get inspired to come up with what fun topics they can do. So I think by nature, you could still give away those screensavers or talk about an article or share some inspirational information or some quotes or something educational or a recipe. And at the bottom, you can link out to a couple of your products. So it doesn't have to necessarily not include any backlink to your website, but I think it's what value can you have. If you sell protein powder, come up with a recipe, 2 recipes a month that you can bake with the protein powder, right? If you sell, a coffee product, come out with a new latte you can make every month. So I think it's, how can people use the products, and they don't even have to use your product, but they could still use their own coffee and make the latte, but there'll be brand affinity, and one day at the right time and right place, they might try your product.
Love it. If someone wants to go, I know education is an important piece in email marketing and in marketing in general. If people want to go about the route of educating their customers to establish expertise and credibility, and build that relationship, how should they go about it? Like, where do they start? Like, let's say that I've just been pushing with promotions and buy kind of campaign. Now I want to educate and be like, what, let's build a relationship type of approach. Where should I start, and how do I go about it?
Sure. I mean, I think the best place to start, go read all your reviews. Head to Amazon, head to your website, go on anywhere that anyone's talking about your product, and go to your competitors and go read their reviews. Spend a lot of time there. That's how you can learn about your customer. You can learn about what they love about products, what their hesitations are about products, learn about their lifestyle, how they're using the products. And that can help stimulate the concepts of what do these people like? What is your persona truly what does that actually look like, and how can you actually build for them? How can you create for them? How can you bring value to them? But if you don't fully understand them and understand what maybe differentiates you versus your competition and what people like and don't like about your products, how people are using your products, how do you even know where to begin? So I think the biggest thing is understanding the customer. Theoretically, sending out an email to ask people to get surveyed, that's them putting in effort. So I would advise the opposite, and go do your own research, read reviews, read competitors, try to do research on there. Hop in your Shopify store, understand your demographics, find out where people are living, find where you have state concentrations, try to figure out your age, demos, and really figure out like, hey, we have a women audience at this age. So start to understand what women of this age like and what they do, how they speak, what is this demographic doing on TikTok? What are they watching? And I think those are all really good ways to come up with these content ideas to break away from sales, is learning more about your customer.
Amazing. What was that website you mentioned that lists all the emails?
It's called Milled.
How do you spell it?
Milled.
Mail.com?
Yes.
Yeah, the largest search engine for e-commerce emails. Interesting. Fantastic. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, go for it. There's a lot on there.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know about that. Fantastic. Love your idea about looking into reviews of yourself, and you learn a lot about. I think historically, one of the places that I think I have looked into personally to make improvements are reviews of ourselves and other customers. And if you want to think stand out from your competition, you can go read their negative reviews and try to improve them on your end, so your service process flow and your products don't have those issues, and you're like instantly ahead of your competition that way.
Definitely. Yeah, it's probably underutilized, and I think with the use of AI, being able to analyze data, scrape data, and be able to synthesize that faster than ever is absolutely amazing. We have a partner called Motion. They do creative analysis, and shout out them for building a hell of a good agent called Riley. You can upload all of your reviews right into Riley, and Riley will essentially, it's the name of their agent, and will essentially analyze all of your reviews and synthesize that data for you extremely quickly. So I think trying to, again, find out what tools are out there, what's available to you, how can you build faster, how can you understand faster. I think back to one of our earlier points of like, how are we leveraging AI? And that's, one of the ways we're improving our customer research.
Beautiful. Seems like you have a strong emphasis on retention and customer retention.
Yeah, it's everything. It's really the ethos of what we do here. I mean, I think it's become so expensive to pay to advertise that without a level of retention, your business just won't sustain. And that wasn't where we started, but it's really where we're heading as an agency. It's become more important for us to be able to be successful. If we can't help our brands retain, adjust their business models accordingly, we probably won't stick with them, and they might not survive. So I think it's been absolutely vital for us on that side of things.
So for those of us who don't know much about the term retention, tell us about what it means and what do you guys do for retention?
Yeah. So, I mean, retention, I guess, is really just defined as any efforts to bring a customer back after they purchase once. How do we get a second purchase? How do you increase their lifetime value? So for a lot of brands, we are all in different financial situations and work on different cadences, but a lot of times we'll watch a 90-day window. So essentially, some brands operate at a loss on first purchase, some may break even. If you're lucky, maybe you're profitable on first purchase. But what that will do is the lower you can go, the more you can spend to scale, and the better your retention is. So it'll give you more room to grow. So a lot of that's really just coming down to what percentage will come back and what is your payoff period. So 90 days is pretty healthy for most brands. What are we doing for that? Building strong subscription programs, really building that post-purchase experience via email and SMS, leveraging notifications for deliveries, letting people know when their shipment has been delayed or it's been lost, making sure your CX is dialed in for tickets, having really good emails to help educate someone. letting them know they should replenish, giving people gifts to stick on subscription, building strong loyalty programs. There's so much that can be done there, and it's a really intricate process. And as more and more brands get on subscription, it's becoming a norm. It's becoming noisy, and a lot of people don't want to be on them. It's becoming harder and harder to figure out what the right way to do it is. So I think
Absolutely.
It's just critical for brands, I guess, to be able to survive on this landscape.
Absolutely. So personally, customer retention is my favorite, most profitable marketing activity, bar none, compared to anything else that we've done out there. And I've noticed that most businesses are ignoring their customers and the list that they already have. And they're out there spending a ton of money on new lead gen,
Yep.
like at least 10x compared to because retention is cheap, I'm sure. Tell us about the different cost on retention versus new lead gen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fraction of the cost, right? I mean, I always tell people that you can continue to put it in the top, but if you're losing more out the bottom, you're playing a sum zero game. So it's a lot cheaper to keep someone once you have them than it is to buy somebody new. The cost of acquisition on Meta CAC is rising. I mean, some people are paying anywhere from 30, 50 to into the hundreds to acquire a customer, when a bill is just pennies on the dollar to be able to reach them via email and SMS on a monthly basis comparatively. So you go from spending tens of thousands of dollars on paid to maybe hundreds or thousands for retention purposes through a few apps and an email bill. So not enough emphasis is put there, and so much effort is just put on that acquisition. And if people spent more time keeping the customers they have, they'd have to put less time, effort, and energy into the massive expense of trying to find someone new. But if you're not doing a good job of educating them, satisfying them, and wanting them to come back and become a loyalist, you're going to continue to burn and churn.
For sure. Are you familiar with Dan Kennedy?
No, not exactly.
Dan Kennedy is one of the marketing guys, I guess one of the marketing gurus. And years ago, I learned from him talking about how like retention is 10 times cheaper at least compared to new lead gen. So if you spend 10 to $50 a year per customer to keep them versus spending $500 to get a customer, like think about the money that you're going to save. And he's like, the conversion rates on retention is so much higher to get repeat business from a customer that knows, likes, and trusts you. Is you like we get like you have like a 70% chances of selling to an existing customer versus a brand new guy that doesn't know you from a sack of potato.
Yep. And those loyalists become your best acquisition tools.
Oh my God, yeah. You could get referrals too. That's another beautiful
That's
piece.
kind of my point, where it's that their loyalists become your best acquisition tools, in the sense that someone who loves you, and they're going to talk about you, they're going to tell their friends about you, they're going to tell their colleagues about you. People want to talk about things that they love and things that they like. They want to share those things. Typically, some people want to keep them to themselves, but in most cases, some people do want to share. And if you're making other people happy, one bad review goes the same way. If people don't like you and they're having a bad experience, they're also going to tell their friends about that. So I think it's a net negative as well. It's you have to kind of look at it in both frames.
Absolutely. So if we're going about increasing customer retention with email, do you have any tips or strategies for that?
Yeah. I think one thing to look at that may haven't touched on is really just what you're doing from an automation perspective. Not everything has to be handpicked. A lot of these things can be thought through of those experiences. So I think doing a journey map, flowing out what a post-purchase journey looks like after someone has purchased, what is happening for them every day. Think about the next 90 days after an order is done. Triggering something from the moment you get a notification that product has been delivered, to their first purchase, to their second purchase, to their third purchase, and everything that could be happening through that journey, and how the experience changes as someone puts your product into the routine, begins to use it more. The communication is different. Everything is different. So I'd almost just sit there on the whiteboard and map out what would it be like for a customer from the minute they placed your order to the second it hits your door. What do you want to be talking about in that experience through the first month of using it to get in that second purchase, going from 1-time to a 2-time purchaser, and through, and automate that experience, build out what those segments look like. And if someone cancels or someone maybe isn't on subscription and hasn't bought and it's been 45 days, what are you doing, right? Build out each journey map. If they do X, give them Y. If they do Z, give them this. So just really mapping out, what path someone's taking down to understand those cadences and be able to educate and, I guess, provide value in an automated format. It doesn't have to be as much labor as people think it does.
100%. I love what you said about doing the journey map, because I think, again, a very large portion of companies haven't done that. I know when I did it, every time I map out a process or a journey map, it opens up my eyes to things that I didn't know exist and things that do exist that need to be removed or improved or optimized. So I guess it makes it tangible. Like before, especially if you're a service company, even a product company, things that do happen and don't happen makes a huge difference.
Surely does. I am totally agreeing with you. I think not enough people do it. And I think sometimes, especially in the consumer goods space, something I've done is I've just bought products. I just know a brand is really killing it. So I'm just going to go buy their product. I might not even be able to use their product, or it might not be something I even want, but I just want to see what their post-purchase experience is like. I just want to see how they're treating their customers, how they're talking to their customers. So I'm almost buying some stuff just to trigger some flows, just to check out what other people are doing. And I think, really trying to see what's best in class. And, I think more people need to spend time doing research, seeing what's out there and what else can be done. And, journey mapping is one thing, but if you don't have the knowledge or the experience, you got to go out and get it. So I think that's the other aspect to it, or bring in someone that can help you, right? Bring in some consultants or whatever it may be to close that knowledge gap. But I think sometimes it's what your competition's doing, and you don't have to do it on your own.
100%. 100%. Give us some of the milestones that you guys have achieved since you started.
Yeah, so hit a few different ones. I think the first one, or I guess one of the big ones for us was hitting Inc. 5,000 for us, and we've been there 2 years in a row. So I think that's kind of shown the speed and growth for us. So I think those have been some of our biggest milestones, just to kind of attest to the speed and growth we have within the space as an agency as a whole.
Beautiful. What would you say were some of the challenges that you guys faced along the way while reaching those milestones?
I think one of the biggest ones was going from an office and networking in person to having to kind of lose that same footprint that we had, and being able to build a successful remote company. So I think that was extremely challenging. Talent acquisition is much different. Retention of your talent is much different. Training of the team, building culture for your team is much different. Connecting and interacting with your clients is much different, because the world has gone that way. I used to hop on the train and I'd go into a client's office for the afternoon. That most clients are remote as well, or don't have an office, don't have a footprint, or don't even want to meet in person. So building relationships with your clients, building relationships with your team, building culture, all extremely challenging in a new landscape. And I don't think there were a lot of remote companies, so there wasn't necessarily a blueprint on here's how to do it, here's what to do. It was kind of something everyone was navigating all at once. And some people have done a great job at it, and some others have hated it, struggled with it, or couldn't figure it out. So I think that was kind of one of the biggest challenges we had, was how do you market, how do you grow, how do you network, how do you build culture from your house?
So are you guys all working from home now?
Most of the team is, yeah. We just grew so rapidly during the COVID area. We were in Dumbo, Brooklyn, which was one of, basically being in the city, where, the epicenter of COVID. So as we're going rapidly through 2020 through 2022, there was so little talent to bring in, and that was the whole reason why we were there. So there has been a shift back to office, but we grew so rapidly across the country that it was really hard to ask some of our best talent from Florida or South Carolina to leave their life behind and come back to Dumbo, Brooklyn. And we weren't going to lose our culture and our talent based on geography. So, we are still predominantly remote. but not fully.
Got
Really
it. Fantastic. Zach, what would you say is maybe holding you or your business back right now?
It's a good question. I think for us, probably talent acquisition is always important for us, just continuing to find the right people that can help us grow and retain our partners. So I think for us, just continuing to bring in top tier talent, develop culture, and retain that talent. It's always a challenging thing to do. So I think that's, we're a service business for people. So I think for us, it's always finding the best people, finding the right people is always a challenge.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean that's a common challenge with almost every business. Finding the right people is tough.
Certainly is. Yeah. I think, we stick to our values and our culture really, really, really well. We truly operate our business that way. So I think we're very picky on who we bring in and really making sure people fit those ethos for us here. And it's kind of allowed us to build that really strong culture.
Fantastic. Zach, who would you say had a major influence on you or your business in your business journey?
It's a good question. There's been a lot of people who've helped us throughout the way. I'd probably hate to just name one person, given how many people have helped us throughout the journey. So, I think there's been different inflection points, whether it had been another agency founder, a college professor, whoever it might have been throughout the years, who've just been like a good confidant for me and my co-founder that have kind of helped us in different pockets. But yeah, honestly, I think probably like our network of other agency owners has probably been like our biggest influential piece. They understand what we're going through and we can problem solve together with us. So I think making friends with your competition or indirect competition has probably been most strategic for us, that we can kind of talk to other people in our shoes to kind of figure out and help each other. So I think that's probably been super important for us.
Beauty. If you could go back and give yourself, like to your younger self, advice when you were first starting your business, what would it be?
Um, Probably to have tried to hire more talent to help get things done sooner, rather than trying to do as much yourself. I think, when you start to bring in more talent that can help you grow rather than trying to do everything on your own. It's definitely a balance as you start the business to not have the cash flow to bring in the right talent, but some of that could even have just been through freelance. I think there's a lot of work we're doing ourselves when maybe we could have grown faster if we had built a little bit of a team around us.
So the fix for that, if somebody's tight on cash flow, is to get a freelancer to do the job.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. I kind of put my point earlier of like staffing is everything in this business. So I think at your stage, you got to figure out how to staff your business for the stage of the business. And, um, you can't be reliant on yourself. You can't be a team of one or two or three. You have to expand.
love it, love it. Do you read books at all?
Oh yeah, read a bit.
Fantastic. Give me two of your favorite books of all time.
Um, Sure. I guess some business related books. Traction has certainly been super, super helpful for us. And for me personally, that's a great one. And probably one of my more favorite ones is Anti-Fragile. I think that's like a great methodology. Just talking about essentially the concept that when you're fragile, you crumble and you break. When you're anti-fragile, that those fractures, those stresses actually help make you stronger. So in an instance, we have a problem with a client, we might churn a client because of the problem, but that crack or that break actually helps us learn and we build a new system so that problem doesn't happen again. Right.
Love
So
it.
I think we like pressure. We like things to break and not stressing out and losing your mind when something breaks, but rather being reactive and that you can't be broken is kind of the thesis of Anti-Fragile. So that's a great mindset to have and
Great.
how we run our business.
I love that book. Nassim Taleb did a great job with that book. And like when he talks about like turning every failure or every crack, like you said, into an opportunity to grow and make your system better, then you're like, oh, when you reach a failure, you don't feel down as much, and it's just like, oh, perfect. I'm going to fix it now.
Exactly.
You know,
Flip that
love it.
mindset.
Are there while we're on that, are there any areas where you're like you improved in your system, in your company, based on that methodology?
I mean, we're just working on things every single day as we continue to grow and hit different plateaus. There's new problems that are facing ourselves. So yeah, I mean, it's within our systems, it's within our ethos. We want things to break. We're okay with things breaking. Means we're growing. It means we're learning. It means we're improving. So I guess it's more of a way to operate than anything. It's just an operational mindset.
Beautiful. Love it. Um, Zac, what's one piece of advice that made a big impact on your life or business?
Impossible. It just takes an hour longer. I think sometimes you just can't give up, can't quit. It might not be the prettiest thing or the most favorable thing, but sometimes you got to stay up all night, or sometimes it just takes an extra hour, a little bit extra research, a little bit of patience. You can figure it out. If you just put your mind to it. So I think it's not having a quitter's mindset, but just take the extra time to get it done.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think a lot of us give us too fast, too quick, too soon.
Yep, totally.
Beauty. Zac, this was a great conversation. You shared a lot of good info. There was a ton of value for people watching or listening. Is there a question that I should have asked that would have added value to people that are watching or listening?
No, we covered a lot. Honestly, I think we packed a ton in here pretty quick. Feel pretty good, and probably a lot to unpack for everybody. So no, I feel pretty good. There's always more to talk about, but I'm feeling good.
Yeah, we did a good job. Where could people find out more about you and reach out?
Yeah, you can check us out. Our agency, we're Lilo Social. Check us out at lilosocial.com, or you can connect with me on Twitter, X, or LinkedIn, just under Zac Fromson. So if looking to reach out, feel free, and want to check out the agency, you can check us out as well.
Beautiful. So lilosocial.com, and you're all over social media, I guess.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn or X, just under my own handles.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Zac. Gang, thank you for watching and listening. You've been watching another episode of the Executive Hub. Mustafa Hussein, yours truly, and my guest, Zac Fromson. Hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you on our next episode. Bye now.